could turn away from the sun, hold me in your eyes, and time loses meaning. I could stay forever by your side, by your side. You come to me with love. You come to me with lightness, sailing through the storms into the day. You come to me with love. I watch the ages crumble, and all my aching heart is
So, a very good morning to everyone and welcome. So here we are, the double foreign season for 2023-24 is underway. And perhaps a little bit of housekeeping. Can we check that the translation is working okay? Russian is working okay? Yes. What else? We have Tamil there. Tamil is okay? Yes. Good. Vietnamese? Wonderful. Good. So my name is Brother Tim, and I'm based in Baba's Retreat Centre outside of Sydney in the Blue Mountains. And my role today is to facilitate a conversation. We're transitioning from being selfish to being selfless. And so we have some wonderful resources here. So I will introduce you to my immediate left. We have Brother Rodrigo from Brazil. And Rodrigo Bai has been with Baba for many, many years. If it's a measure of how long he's been with Baba, he first had the opportunity when he came along to have a few personal meetings with Bap Dada. So that was a feature of the 80s. And next to him we have Sister Rachel. And Rachel has been with Baba for a couple of decades. She's based in London, where she serves at Global Cooperation House. Welcome, Rachel. And on the far side we have Sister Rosemary. So we've got the three R's, Rodrigo, Rachel and Rosemary. And Rosemary has been with Baba again for more than a couple of decades. And similarly, she's based in Global Cooperation House in London. And so let's see what wisdom and experience we can draw from our guests. And we hope to have a fairly easygoing kind of conversation. So I suppose the first thing to start with is the question of, well, if we look at the topic, it tells us that we're transitioning from selfishness to selflessness. So it suggests a journey, and given that we're in the confluence age, we would hope it's a journey of progress, a journey of ascent. But let's just start with some definitions. So what do you think we mean by selfishness? Rodrigo?
Well, good morning for everyone. Selfishness. I was researching, looking for some concepts, and I find that is the one of, because can be many motives, many causes, but one of them is, one of the causes of selfishness is fear. Fear is a kind of vice, fear, or insecurity. So how is this work? When we start to look to the world, to external things, are enemies, like the nature, the people, everyone is my enemy, everyone you take something from me, I start to lock inside. So the fear is the contrary of courageous. No? This word came from the Latin, coraction. That means virtue of the heart. So the fear is the lack of this virtue of the heart. In other words, is the lack of love. And when we are insecure, you must to protect ourselves. When I am insecure, I note down some things. To feel secure, I must accumulate. I must accumulate food, must accumulate power, I must accumulate money to feel secure. This gives birth to another vices, the greed, the gluttony, and others. To feel secure, I must to show what I have. I have a lot of connections in today's world is like followers. I must to show others how important I am. I must to show others the money that I have, the beauty that I have, to feel secure. So this insecurity gives birth to a lot of vices. And just to finish, To feel secure, I must show how good I am, and this gives birth to ego. So I think that selfishness comes from this outlook of the external world as something very dangerous, my enemies, and then I must to protect myself. The solution is very easy, but it's a journey. The solution that's easy, we talk after.
So I would suggest that the basis of selfishness is fear.
One of
the bases.
Yeah.
Okay. Rachel, would you like to add anything to that?
No, it is. I really absolutely agree. Selfishness is about insecurity, lack of self-respect. I've really enjoyed thinking about this topic over the last few days and maybe chatting with a few people. And it seems to me that it's not so much a transition, but it's a balance, because I think you can have an impure kind of selfishness, but you can also have a pure kind of selfishness, and you can have a pure kind of selflessness, but there is also the impure selflessness. It's like, I am good, I'm a renunciate. So for me anyway, and I see it in myself, is that it's, yes, of course it is a sort of journey, and I hope I'm getting a little bit better, but it's kind of keep checking. That's my thought.
I think they've covered it.
Oh.
Om Shanti. Good morning. Selfishness. I was thinking of it more on two aspects. One is the physical, the lokic selfishness, but also spiritual selfishness. And I think spiritual selfishness is what I was focusing on, rather than the way we are in our lives. But we can also, in Brahman life, be totally unaware of the effect we have on other people. And for me, that's because I'm in a bubble and I'm really selfish in that aspect. Because small little things that happen, people are totally unaware of perhaps the noise they're making when they walk in the room and people are sleeping. So I'm a very grounded person, and so I think in these terms. And or they switch on a light suddenly and they didn't need to, or they talk until midnight, not thinking of others. So I think people who are unwell mentally also are very self-absorbed, so they're very selfish, but then they can't help it because it's a problem for them. But selfishness is, in a spiritual context, is very courageous, and we can go into that further. But I think we need spiritual selfishness as well.
Would you like to? You look like you're...
Yeah, it's a conversation. We should change the names, panel of conversation, not panel discussion.
Yes.
Discussion, conversation.
Well, there's other aspect that's connected with spiritual selfishness. There is the lack of true love. Lack of true love. Sometimes when we don't receive love for ourselves, is the meaning of low self-esteem or self-love. I don't have self-love, I don't love myself. And then it's like a recipient. The soul has a love recipient. Let's imagine something like this. And if I don't love myself, this recipient is very low in the quantity. And then I must to look to others, to feel, to call the attention of others. Can be becoming sick. I will call attention of others. Can be other motives. But then, if I don't receive love from others, that can be, and there's many causes because I don't receive love from others. I can be a very boring person, a very annoying person, or like the word today, if I have a color of the skin, maybe the other people don't give me love. If I have another religion, so the world today is a kind of difficult to receive love from others. But if this recipient is low in quantity, I need somewhere. But the main point is love from God. This is almost the solution for everything. But therapeutically speaking, the cause of the solution of the spiritual illness is love from God. So I was thinking that in spiritual selfishness is the lack of God, love from God. Because we don't know Him, because we are fighting with Him, we don't know. So where you receive love, and then the soul is so low in this, start to calling attention in any ways.
I was going on a totally different tack, but I completely agree with you about love, for sure. We're all looking for love, and if we don't get it, then we can be selfish about it. I understand that. But my thinking in spiritual selfishness is that, we love to give. We feel better when we give. When we do something nice for people, our heart expands. But personally, as a mother, I know from the past that I've just worn myself thin and just got no energy left at all, and I need to regain that energy, and it is spiritual selfishness that actually gives that energy back to me, because I have through the Brahma Kumaris, of course, and Baba's knowledge, I have a discipline, and I need to follow that discipline, and that helps me to keep my balance, as Rachel's talked about, the balance. And so I think it's very important that we take time out, as all of you do, I'm sure, at home, to have Amrit to come to Murli, to listen to classes when you can or whatever, because that's your sustenance to keep the balance. But, if you just constantly are giving, and you don't give yourself back these things, then you will end up being unenergized and spiritually unconscious, I think.
Perhaps when we're talking about selfishness, perhaps it's about when I just look after my needs and I'm completely ignorant of others. Because in this conversation, whether we're talking about being selfish or being selfless, what's the key word? It's about the self. And this is such a central part of our study. So what about the aspect of actually looking after the self? Because, it occurred to me that if I don't look after myself, someone else is going to have to. So, surely, I think that's selfish if I'm not maintaining a balance, and so it requires the time, the energy, the attention of others to make sure that, I'm being well looked after. Where's the place of looking after the self in this transition from selfishness to selflessness?
I think, as Rosemary said, discipline, benevolent discipline, not forced discipline. And, it can change. I think one of the things I found is that if I keep my discipline just as a routine, it stops working after a while. I have to keep giving it more attention, being creative with it. It's not to say that I may stick to the same timings, but just to have a discipline for me, or just to have a routine, won't work for very long. So I have to keep being genuinely interested in it and creating new methods. And I'll just give an example. I'm not doing it anymore, but it was a really lovely thing I did for a few months. I came to Madhavan a couple of years ago, and I started it here and then carried on for a little while. And it was just a game I started with, and I called it 4-3-2-1. But it didn't last. It lasted about 3 months, or 3 or 4 months. And while I did it, I was so happy. So it was 4 hours of meditation, 3 times revising the Murli, 2 meals a day, 1 hour of exercise, and then I had 2 zeros. 0 excuses, but also 0 guilt if it's simply not possible. So this was just a game I played with myself, but it was an example of how I think we have to entertain ourselves. I have to entertain myself, I know, otherwise I'll just get bored. And so it's just different ways that I can do to just help myself keep a discipline and keep a boundary, keep a benevolent boundary for myself, so that that's my priority and not delivering, getting things done, pleasing people, whatever it is, because you can fall into that, with lots of service, lots of deadlines, or I haven't got time to read the Murli again. Well, hang on. So.
Rosemary, looking after the self?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned a few years ago was to change my attitude. And I think that, it's so easy to say, oh gosh, I haven't got time, or resent something happening to you, or, sort of pushing away from what's coming at you. And really, to just change your attitude to it, say, okay, fine, I've got time, and time will come to you. And I found that very, very beneficial. Just switch that, we all have that feeling sometimes, and really just to say, okay, it's fine, don't, you know what I mean?
It is easier to resignify or to change the attitude, because it's not a problem, it's a challenge, it's something to grow, it's an elevator, as Baba said. For me, it is self-care, to be selfishness. It's like there in Brahmin life, there are some words that like detachment. I can be detached and can be very bad, or I can be detached. It's the same word, but it's very virtuous. This is another word that can have this double meaning. You need to clarify to people, because they will not understand if you just say that I will take care of myself. You say, maybe for a mother that wants, just imagine now I meditate, I stay, she can make your game, 4 hours meditation. But just imagine, if I want to meditate and my child is something, it's not possible. So the self-care is not selfish, but because this depends on the time, on the right thing that I'm doing. This is very necessary. This is a secret, the balance to take care of myself and the others, or self-care in service. This balance is one of the secrets to have a long life, Brahmin life. I will do, I think that's next month, 40 years in Gyan. I started when I had 18, 1/8. And then the secret, I think that's balance, to be creative and create new kind of efforts, the same kind the human soul don't like the same. But you must to have a routine, very disciplined, but you must be creative, new types of efforts. But this is a secret, I think that's the balance to take care of ourselves and service. Service can be lockic or alokik. And Baba say that this is the balance that will make us progress. Otherwise, something will happen. So it's very, very important, this balance.
Okay, so what if we consider the destination? So, as mentioned, the topic is from selfishness, transitioning from selfishness to selflessness. Now, with the exception of a couple of souls that I can think of, we all have bodies, so we have to look after those. Really only we can say Bap and Dada are in that place of complete selflessness. So, what does selflessness mean to you? And what I'm thinking as well is both Rachel and Rosemary spent a lot of time with Didi Janti, but also Daddy Janki. So, two very excellent examples of what it means to be selfless. If you could share some thoughts or even some stories, some experiences.
One of the things I remember Daddy saying, which really touched me, which is it was very much about what is the need rather than what do I need. And I think the definition of selfishness is, or a kind of a definition of selfishness would be I need, and selflessness would be I have. And I often use the analogy of having a begging bowl or having a fruit bowl. Which do I have? Whether it's in a conversation, I want you to like me, I want you to agree with me, I want you to be how I want you to be, whatever. That's begging. But if it's like, I have, like you're saying, if I've filled myself and I have enough, then I can accept you being different. I can accept the fact that you don't like me or that you didn't like my joke or whatever it is. So I think that thing about, the neediness and the difference between needing and having is, key.
Yeah, I think that's lovely. It's a lovely example that when we are in that selfish mindset, it's a place of lacking.
And it can be even kind of like, you think it's quite good, it's like, I need to be in Panda Bhavan. I need to have a good seat in Baba's room. Or, I need to be involved in that project. So it can feel like a pure need, but maybe actually it's not so helpful.
Or I won't. Or I won't.
Yes.
Oh, do you want to come? Yeah, no, I agree with Rachel. Lovely analogy, super. I shall remember that. Yes, I went to Chantiban at some point years ago, and there must have been some problem for myself somewhere along the line. And you go and I'd ask advice. It was probably jealousy or something like that. And she said something wonderful to me, and she said, whatever is your due will come to you. You don't have to ask